Welcome back to the deep dive, where we really get into the research so you don't have to, breaking down what you actually need to know to lead effectively. Today, we're tackling something I call the CIO's riddle. Picture this. A company is, well, drowning in IT problems, systems down, constant failures, massive tech debt. And who do they hire as the new chief information officer? A business manager, someone with, get this, no formal IT background. They pass over the tech guru for a generalist. What on earth does that tell us about what it takes to be an IT exec today?
You know, that decision, as counterintuitive as it sounds, it might be the single biggest lesson for anyone aspiring to IT leadership. The sources we're looking at, especially Dr. Schuessler's work,
Right.
they describe the modern CIO role as having, well, it's like CEO-level strategic thinking,
Right.
TO-level operational headaches, and CFO-level budget pressure. And, oh yeah, you're also the public face every single time a server crashes.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. And when you're under that kind of pressure, deep technical skill, that's just the entry fee now. It's table stakes. The real game changer, the differentiator, is the non-technical stuff. Leadership, influence, the ability to translate tech into business value.
Okay, let's really dig into that then. Our mission today is to unpack those, let's call them soft skills, though they feel pretty hard when you need them, that take an IT leader from being just the top tech person to a real strategic player at the table. We're using this framework as our guide. And hey, if you're maybe an early career IT pro listening, or a grad student thinking about leadership in tech, or maybe you're already eyeing that C-suite spot, stick with us. You'll want to follow this deep dive series and maybe share it with someone else you know who's getting ready for that top job.
So the first big mindset shift is realizing the CIO isn't just the head of the IT department anymore. The really great ones, they have to be conversant across everything the company does.
Conversant.
Yeah.
So fluent in the whole business.
It's exactly. Finance, operations, supply chain, marketing strategy, product innovation, you name it. They're still the tech visionary, absolutely. But their vision has to drive the future of the business, not just keep the current systems running.
That totally reframes the job. It's not about uptime percentages anymore. It's about, what, market share?
Okay, so let's break down these core pillars. Pillar 1, visionary leadership and innovation. It's easy to say vision, but how does a CIO, who maybe isn't the deepest tech expert, actually create and, more importantly, sell a big, possibly risky vision? Like, say, moving everything to the cloud when the board is nervous.
Yeah, and that's the key difference, right, between just being technically smart and being a visionary leader. The visionary CIO connects technology directly to advancing specific business goals. It's not about knowing the most code. It's about seeing how emerging tech, AI, cloud, whatever's next, can actually change the business, create an advantage. They're constantly asking, how does this tech help us make more money, save money, or do something totally new?
So it's outcome-driven, totally. And when they sell it, forget the jargon. They talk business outcomes. They don't say, we need a $50 million cloud spend. They say, okay, this $50 million investment, it cuts our product launch time by 40%. We estimate that means $200 million in new revenue over 3 years. See the difference?
Big difference. It's speaking their language.
And crucially, they foster a culture where innovation isn't just an IT thing. They pull in ideas from marketing, from finance, from operations. They make everyone feel like they're part of this tech evolution, not just, putting in help desk tickets.
That makes sense. And it flows right into the second pillar you mentioned, financial acumen. If you can't talk dollars and cents, that brilliant vision just dies on the vine. I like how you framed it needing the business sense of a CFO.
Absolutely. And this is probably the toughest historical baggage to overcome for IT, that perception of being purely a cost center, just a black hole for money.
Yeah, the necessary evil department.
Right. The successful CIO fundamentally shifts that. They make IT a value driver. They need to speak P&L, risk management, strategic investments. When they ask for budget, it's not just, we need new servers. It's, here's the ROI, here's the strategic impact, here's how it reduces risk. And a big part of that is mastering portfolio management, making the tough calls about where those limited IT dollars go to get the biggest business bang for the buck. Sometimes that means saying no to cool tech projects that just don't move the needle strategically.
Saying no requires guts. Which brings us neatly to pillar number 3, internal fortitude and resilience. This job sounds like an emotional roller coaster, a political minefield. What does that resilience actually look like on a Tuesday morning?
Tuesday morning is a good test case. It's that inner strength, that persistence. You've got this big multi-year strategic plan, right? But before 10 a.m., you've already dealt with 3 system outages, A surprise regulatory audit is starting, and a senior VP is complaining loudly about their slow laptop.
Sounds familiar to some listeners, I bet.
Probably. Fortitude is being able to handle that daily fire drill, that chaos, without completely losing focus on the long-term strategic goals. It's keeping your eye on the prize amidst the noise. And look, this isn't just some abstract quality. You build it through experience. You survive the nightmare projects. You weather the political storms after big failure. You learn to bounce back. A CIO shows fortitude when they tackle the really unpopular stuff head on, like maybe cutting that beloved legacy system everyone likes, but that's actually draining millions.
Ouch.
Yeah, ouch. But they do it transparently, they explain the why, they hold themselves accountable, they become a stabilizing force because people trust their decisions are reasoned, even if they're tough. This is exactly why things like mentorship and coaching are so critical, passing down those hard-won, battle-tested lessons on how to survive and thrive.
Okay, to really see these pillars in action, we kind of have to talk about the Jim Barton case study at IVK Corporation. This is almost legendary, right? It's the scenario we started with, the really sharp business manager, internal hire, respected, but zero formal IT background. And he gets the CIO job. Why? Because the previous guy, Davies, who was supposedly a technical wizard, had completely failed in the role.
Right, and the CEO's reasoning was just blunt. He basically said, look, Davies knows a ton about IT. Clearly, that's not enough. It didn't work. So we're going to try something different. It's maybe the clearest example out there that the CIO job fundamentally is a leadership job first, tech job second.
So Barton steps into this. I mean, talk about pressure. Highly respected in his old role, now running a division where he admits he knows almost nothing. You said he felt lost in a fog. How did he even start? How did he avoid just sinking immediately?
Well, his survival kit had two main tools, both soft skills.
Yeah.
Humility and relationship building. First off, he knew what he didn't know, and he wasn't afraid to admit it. I mean, the story goes, he literally Googled history of the CIO role just to get his bearings.
Seriously, he Googled it.
Yeah, and it sounds trivial, but it signals something really important for any executive, that willingness to learn fast and being humble enough to start from basics if you need to. Continuous learning. He did grasp the strategic potential that IT could drive growth. But his first move wasn't some big tech strategy document. It was basically a relationship audit. He went straight to his IT leadership team, the people who did have the deep tech knowledge, and he was upfront. I need your expertise. I don't have the answers here.
That's huge. That knowing what you don't know approach.
It builds incredible trust. It empowers the actual experts to step up and own the technical solutions, knowing their boss has their back and will translate it upwards. It's the polar opposite of Davies, who probably intimidated everyone or dismissed their ideas.
Okay, so he leverages his internal IT team. But what about his peers, the other C-suite execs? Davies apparently had terrible relationships there. How did Barton mend those fences or build new bridges?
Totally different approach. Davies saw them as, I don't know, demanding customers. Barton saw them as partners. He set up these really focused one-on-one meetings with the CMO, the CFO, the COO. He wasn't there to talk tech specs. He was there to understand their biggest problems, their strategic goals.
Listening first.
Listening first, and then translating IT's potential into their world. Talk about how IT could help the COO optimize inventory or help the CMO generate more qualified leads. He was actively showing them, hey, IT, under my leadership, is here to help you succeed, not just keep the lights on. It completely repositioned the department.
All this groundwork, the relationship building, the humility, it really sets the stage for the ultimate test, right? The crisis, a massive security breach, systems are down, customer data leaking. This is where that internal fortitude pillar gets tested for real.
Oh, absolutely. This is the trial by fire, and is where the non-technical CIO truly proved his value. In the middle of total chaos, Barton didn't pretend to be the tech expert. He relied heavily on his team for the diagnostics, the technical details. He wasn't trying to, read packet captures himself.
Smart. He started in his lane.
Exactly. But he owned the strategic decisions, and he had to show incredible fortitude when he made the call, the really tough, unpopular call to temporarily shut down a major system, a revenue-generating system.
Whoa, that's a huge decision. Could cost millions, hit the stock.
Absolutely, high stakes. But here's the key. He didn't frame it as a technical problem needing a technical fix. He framed it as a business protection decision. He went straight to the CEO, straight to the board, and he communicated clearly, calmly, concisely. He translated the technical threat, the breach, into business terms. Financial risk, reputational risk. He became the chief communicator, the calm center of the storm, and that transparency, that composure under fire, It earned him massive respect and credibility. It arguably saved the company's reputation.
So the big takeaway from Barton is,
It's that the soft skills, his judgment, his leadership presence, his ability to communicate clearly under pressure, his political savvy, his resilience, they completely made up for the lack of deep technical expertise. You have to be, as the saying goes, technologically conversant. You need to understand the implications.
Mhm.
But your ability to lead people, manage relationships, and navigate crises, that's ultimately far more critical than being the best coder in the room.
Okay, so leading people. That brings us to change. The moment a CIO steps in, they're basically signing up to be the chief change agent, right? Whether it's a huge digital transformation, a cloud migration, integrating systems after a merger, change is constant and it's always hard. Since we know the CIO has to lead through this turbulence, what kind of roadmaps or models do the effective ones use? Because you can't just decree change
No,
happens.
you definitely can't mandate transformation. You have to manage the human side of it, the transition. And yeah, there were some really powerful frameworks that help CIOs guide their teams and the whole organization through these big shifts. Let's touch on three key ones. First up is 80 care.
80 KRER, awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. That sounds very focused on the individual journey through change.
It absolutely is. It's built on the idea that organizational change only sticks if the individual employees actually buy into it and make the shift themselves. Think about Barton again, hypothetically. His team is probably still reeling from the Davies era, maybe feeling burnt out. Now he needs them to adopt some radical new way of working. He can't just announce it. He has to build desire. How? Not by talking about corporate strategy, necessarily, but by showing them what's in it for them.
WIFM, what's in it for me?
Exactly. Maybe it's, look, this new approach, it's going to automate 10 hours of boring, repetitive tasks you hate doing each week. Or mastering this will open up opportunities for you to work on more strategic, higher-profile projects. You got to show the personal win. Then you provide the knowledge and ability, the training, the tools, and critically, you keep reinforcing the positive changes you see, celebrating the small wins along the way. It's about bringing people along, not dragging them.
Makes sense. Okay, what's the next model? The McKinsey influence model.
Right. McKinsey's framework is built around four key levers, and it puts a huge emphasis on the reason for the change, what they call fostering understanding and conviction. Basically, if the CIO can't clearly articulate the why is this painful change necessary and ultimately beneficial, then you're going to hit a wall of resistance.
So the why is central. What are the other building blocks?
Role modeling is huge. The leaders, starting with the CIO, have to walk the talk. If you're pushing a new collaboration tool, you better be using it visibly yourself, not sticking to email.
Lead by example.
Absolutely. Then there's developing talent and skills, making sure people have the capabilities needed for the new way of working. And finally, reinforcing with formal mechanisms, aligning performance metrics, rewards, resource allocation to support the change, not undermine it. It's about making the new way the path of least resistance.
Okay, AD-CARE focuses on the individual, McKinsey on the why and structure. What about the third one, the switch framework? That one sounds intriguing, writer and elephant.
Yeah, this one's based on the psychology of change, the idea that we have this rational mind, the writer, and this emotional instinctual side, the elephant. Often in IT changes, the writer sees the logic, the ROI, the efficiency gains of a new system. But the elephant, it feels the fear, the disruption, the comfort of the old way. It digs its heels in.
And the elephant usually wins, right? Emotion trumps logic.
Often, yeah. So the switch framework says the CIO has to appeal to both. You direct the writer by providing crystal clear direction, breaking down the steps, making the path obvious. You motivate the elephant by connecting to emotions, shrinking the change into smaller, less scary steps, celebrating progress to build confidence. And you shape the path by removing obstacles, tweaking the environment to make the change easier.
So aligning logic and emotion.
Exactly. It's about reducing that internal friction so the whole person, writer, and elephant moves forward together towards the transformation goal.
So we've talked about leading the organization through change. Let's zoom in now on the CIO's own team, the IT department itself. Collaboration is obviously vital. You mentioned some scary stats earlier. Poor teamwork, delaying projects by 30%, inflating work hours. That's brutal for IT, where projects are so complex and interconnected. What's the absolute foundation for making an IT team truly high-performing?
Without a doubt, it's psychological safety. This comes from Amy Edmondson's groundbreaking research. And it's not about everyone being nicey nice or avoiding disagreement. It's a shared belief across the team that it's safe to take interpersonal risks.
Interpersonal risks, like what specifically?
Like admitting you made a mistake, like asking a dumb question when you don't understand a complex technical point, like offering constructive criticism on a teammate's code or approach, like experimenting with a new idea that might fail. Doing any of those things without fearing you'll be embarrassed, blamed, punished, or seen as incompetent.
And why is that feeling of safety so incredibly important, especially in a field like IT?
Because psychological safety is the bedrock of learning behavior. And in IT, with technology changing constantly, complexity rising, learning is everything. When teams feel safe, what do? They ask for feedback. They talk openly about errors to figure out the root cause, not to point fingers. They experiment. They share knowledge freely. And that learning behavior is directly tied to higher performance, innovation, and better outcomes on complex projects.
Can you give an example? You mentioned those contrasting teams in the research. Publications versus STAIN team.
Yeah, that's a classic illustration. The publications team had low psychological safety. People were afraid to speak up, afraid to admit errors. So what happened? They developed coping mechanisms, they kept problems to themselves, they planned their exit strategy, they saw the environment as punitive, so they protected themselves instead of learning together.
Okay, classic CYA mode.
Pretty much. Now contrast that with the STAIN team. They faced more external challenges, like constantly having people pulled off their projects. But they thrived. Why? Because they had a shared belief that everyone's intentions were good, that feedback was meant to help, not hurt. If an error they called it a drip happened, they'd talk about it openly. Not whose fault was it, but, okay, what in our process allowed this to happen? How do we fix the system? They could give and receive tough feedback because they trusted each other. That safety allowed them to learn fast, adapt, and ultimately perform much better. It's a huge lesson for any IT leader. You have to consciously build that safe space for productive failure and open dialogue.
But even in the safest teams, conflict still happens. It seems almost baked into modern work. Flatter organizations, remote teams, intense pressure. A CIO can't just wish conflict away.
Nope, it's inevitable. And maybe even necessary sometimes for good ideas to emerge. The key isn't avoiding conflict, it's managing it constructively. There's a useful model for this, the hourglass model of conflict management. It goes through stages: knowledge, diagnosis, intervention, lessons learned, back to knowledge.
Hourglass.
Yeah.
Suggesting where you spend the most time.
Exactly. The model visually emphasizes that the widest parts, where you should invest the most time and effort, are at the top: knowledge gathering and diagnosis.
Wait, so spend more time understanding the conflict than actually intervening. That feels counterintuitive.
It does, but think about it. So many conflicts spiral out of control because people jump to solutions or blame without really understanding the root cause. Maybe the conflict between, say, your dev team and your ops team isn't because they dislike each other.
What else could it be?
Maybe, as you discover in the diagnosis phase, they have completely conflicting performance metrics. Dev is rewarded for speed of deployment. Ops is rewarded for system stability. They're set up to fight by the system itself.
Ah, so the intervention isn't mediation, it's fixing the metrics.
Precisely. By spending time up front, diagnosing the real issue, misaligned goals, communication breakdown, resource scarcity, whatever it is your intervention, is far more likely to be effective and lasting. You solve the actual problem, not just the surface symptom.
That deeper diagnosis, and often the intervention itself, probably requires some serious negotiation skills from the CIO.
Oh, absolutely. Negotiation at the C-suite level isn't just haggling over price. It's serious strategic work. The best negotiators do incredible homework. They don't just know their own position. They deeply understand the other party's interests, their priorities, their constraints, what their alternatives are.
Putting yourself in their shoes.
Literally. Trying to anticipate their arguments, figuring out where there might be common ground or creative trade-offs nobody's thought of, and flexibility is crucial. You can't win every single point in a major vendor negotiation or a cross-departmental resource fight. You need to know what's truly critical, be willing to concede on smaller things to secure the big win for the overall business objective.
And related to managing conflict, there's the idea of different conflict styles, right? Like the Thomas Kilmann instrument, the TKI.
Yes, the TKI identifies 5 common approaches.
Yeah.
Competing, assertive, uncooperative. Collaborating, assertive, cooperative.
Yeah.
Compromising, moderate on both. Avoiding, unassertive, uncooperative. And accommodating, unassertive, cooperative.
So which one should a CIO use? Is collaborating always best?
That's the trick. There is no single best style.
Yeah.
The goal for an effective leader isn't to perfect one style, but to develop the flexibility to deploy the right style for the specific situation. Collaboration is often great for complex problems where relationships matter and you need a true win-win. But imagine a critical, fast-moving cybersecurity threat, a zero-day exploit. The CIO probably needs to switch instantly into poor competing mode, make quick, decisive, unilateral decisions to protect the company. There's no time for consensus building.
Right. Emergency dictates the style.
Or, conversely, maybe two mid-level managers are squabbling over some minor resource allocation that really doesn't impact the big picture, and, an upcoming reorg is going to solve it anyway. The CIO might strategically choose to avoid getting dragged into that fight, saving their political capital for battles that actually matter.
So it's about situational awareness and flexibility.
Exactly. That adaptability in handling conflict. That's a massive differentiator between average and truly effective IT executives.
Okay, we've covered the vision, the finances, the people leadership, the change management, the team dynamics, but none of it lands if you can't actually execute. The CIO has to be an operational master too, translating all that strategy into reliable, everyday results. How do they actually operationalize the strategy and, importantly, demonstrate IT's value, which can often feel kind of intangible?
Yeah, that translation piece is critical. They rely on more formal frameworks and tools to ensure that the day-to-day operations are aligned with the strategy and that they can actually measure and show the value being created.
Let's start with governing the IT portfolio itself. One really useful tool here is SFIA.
SFIA's skills framework for the information age. Sounds like a big dictionary. How does a busy CIO actually use that?
Think of it less like a dictionary and more like a common language, a map for IT skills. It defines, I think, 97 different skills across 7 distinct levels of responsibility. For the CIO themselves, they're operating at level 7. Set strategy, inspire, mobilize.
Okay, so it defines the target.
Right. But they use the whole framework to look at their team. It becomes a checklist for strategic workforce planning. Let's say the company strategy requires a big push into AI and machine learning. The CIO can use SFIA to do a really granular gap analysis. Okay, which teams need level 5 data science skills? Who needs level 6 business strategy integration? So it makes skill gaps concrete and actionable.
Exactly. It moves beyond vague feelings like we need more AI people to specific measurable skill targets that can drive targeted hiring, training programs, or internal development. It links talent strategy directly to business strategy.
Makes sense. Beyond skills, what about managing the fire hose of project requests? Every department wants IT resources, right? How do CIOs prioritize?
That's where project portfolio management, or PPM, comes in. PPM isn't just project management. It's about managing the entire portfolio of IT investments, like a financial portfolio. It establishes rigorous, transparent processes for evaluating every single project request against strategic objective, ROI potential, risk level, resource requirements.
So it forces tough choices based on strategy, not just who yells loudest.
Precisely. Projects that don't clearly align with the company's strategic goals, they get rejected, deferred, or reshaped. PPM ensures that those precious IT resources, time, money, people, are focused on the initiatives that deliver the maximum business value. It brings discipline and transparency to IT investment.
And then there are the frameworks for just keeping the basic machinery running smoothly, like COBIT and ITIL.
Yeah, those are fundamental for operational excellence. Think of them as the operating system for the IT department. COBIT helps with governance, risk management, and ensuring IT processes align with overall business goals. I will provide best practices for IT service management, everything from handling incidents and problems to managing changes and service requests efficiently.
They sound very operational, maybe less strategic.
Well, mastering them is strategic for the CIO. Why? Because when these operational processes run smoothly, predictably, efficiently, it frees up the CIO's time and mental energy. They aren't constantly putting out fires. They can lift their head up and focus on those level 7 strategic issues, on innovation, on stakeholder relationships. Operational excellence enables strategic focus.
Good point. Okay, so the operations are humming, the portfolio is aligned. How does the CIO then prove IT's value to the rest of the C-suite who might not understand the tech details?
That's where measurement and communication tools come in. The IT Balance Scorecard is a classic. It takes traditional business scorecard concepts and applies them to IT. It links internal IT metrics, things like system uptime, yes, but also user satisfaction scores, project delivery times, maybe innovation metrics like new features launched.
And connects those to actual business outcomes.
Exactly. It shows how improving IT performance in specific areas directly contributes to things the rest of the business cares about. Faster time to market, better customer retention, lower operational costs, enabling new revenue streams. It translates IT activity into business impact.
What about deciding where to invest strategically? You mentioned portfolio management.
McFarland's strategic grid is another really useful visual tool for that. It helps classify different IT systems and projects based on two dimensions: their strategic importance to the future business and how critical they are for current operations.
So it creates categories. Like,
Yeah, you get four quadrants. Support systems are necessary but not strategic differentiators, like email. Factory systems are critical for operations today, like your core transaction processing. Turnaround systems might be problematic ones needing urgent fixes. And in the strategic quadrant, these are the high potential, maybe high risk bets on future competitive advantage.
and the grid helps the CIO.
It helps them visualize the portfolio, manage risk, and ensure they have the right balance. You need solid factory systems, you need to fix turnaround issues, but you also need to be consciously investing in those strategic bets for future growth. It guides investment decisions.
Finally, let's talk development. A key CIO role is building the next generation of leaders. We always hear mentoring and coaching thrown around. Are they different? Does the distinction matter for an executive?
Well, it matters hugely because they serve very different purposes, even though both are vital. Mentoring is typically a longer-term relationship. It's often less formal, more relationship-driven. The focus is on the mentee's overall long-term career development and navigating the organization.
So, guidance, wisdom, network access.
Exactly. The mentor shares experience, offers advice, helps the mentee see the bigger picture, understand the culture, the politics. It's about holistic growth and career trajectory.
Okay, so how is coaching different?
Coaching is usually much more structured and short-term. It's focused on achieving specific, measurable results or improving particular skills, maybe improving executive presence or handling conflict more effectively or preparing for a specific new role. It often starts with assessments, like a 360 review to pinpoint development areas.
And the coach's role is different too.
Yes, a mentor often gives advice, shares their answers. A coach is trained to ask powerful questions to help the client find their own answers and solutions. It's less about instruction, more about facilitating self-discovery and performance improvement. A CIO needs to understand both and leverage them strategically, maybe coaching for targeted skill gaps, mentoring for grooming future successors.
This has been incredibly insightful. It really drives home that getting to the CIO level today demands this almost paradoxical mix of skills. You need the vision, the financial chops, the change leadership, the people skills. It's a huge portfolio. Mastering the tech. That's just the beginning. Winning the top job and succeeding in it seems to be all about mastering leadership and influence.
Absolutely. And if anything we talked about today sparked a new perspective for you on what executive IT leadership really entails, maybe pass this deep dive along. Anyone aiming high in the tech world needs to grapple with these ideas.
And as you think about everything we've covered, especially the power of those non-technical skills,
Yeah, think back to the Jim Barton story, the non-techie who succeeded through humility and relationships. And think about psychological safety, how critical that is for teams doing complex work. Here's a closing thought. What's one concrete step you could take, maybe this week, to consciously practice that knowing what you don't know mindset and to actively foster a bit more psychological safety, that space for safe, transparent risk-taking within your own team or project? Remember, technology drives change, but leadership drives impact. Keep learning, keep growing, and lead the future you want to create.